suppose you're trying to approve a credit card for a person whom you should not approve, but you have like 10 of approvals and you go ahead and approve it. But the problem is now AI has learned that it is going to approve all those. So you have to be very careful. So it is not one of a case. If there are now 10 cases under the similar criteria, AI is going to approve it.
Welcome to the LufSec podcast, where we dive into the minds shaping cybersecurity from every angle. I'm Luciano Ferrari, and today I'm joined by Mrunal Gangrade, Vice President of Software Engineering at JPMorgan Chase, mentor with the National Science and Technology Medals Foundation, and co-author of a fascinating research paper on an explainable AI called Operationalizing Semantics from Domain Diagrams. So Mrunal has spent more than a decade building large-scale enterprise systems for organizations like Citigroup, UPS, and Allstate. So leading teams developing microservices architecture and driving innovation at the intersection of reliability, trust, and security. So in this episode, we will explore her journey from code to cyber trust. So how her engineering background shaped her perspective on system security, what inspired her research on the Amidal framework, and how she envisions the future of explainable secure AI systems. So Mrunal, before we dive into Amidal and your current work, I always like to start with the human history. So how did your journey into technology and cybersecurity begin?
Hi, that's the wonderful introduction. That was like really nice to hear all that about me. I have like over 20 years of experience, and to begin with, like I started my journey back in Mumbai, where I graduated, and I did a bachelor's in computer engineering, and right from the college, like I was picked up for my first job from the college, and I started working in Mumbai. And then I came here in 2008 for AIG insurance. And then I went back to India. I worked there for a couple of years and then got married, had a family. And then I came back in 2013. So I worked for KFOS to begin with, UPS. And then I switched to Citigroup first as a consultant, then as a full time, and that has been my interest once I got into finance. So technology and finance became my interest, and then when I switched to JPMorgan, I got a lot of opportunity to work in various domains, like various technologies. So that's my journey. Like I started back in 2005 when it was, technology. It was not that as fancy as it is now.
Thank you. So, you build, your career through like a large enterprise, as you mentioned, like Citi, JP Morgan, UPS, right, Allstate, and organizations that rely heavily on security and reliability. So, the question for you is, what first drew you into building and securing large-scale systems?
Because all these big organizations, they focus the main focus of, because anybody can develop, like it's not from the beginning, it's not after the AI, but even from the before, many people to be a coder or to be a developer is the easiest thing. But what's difficult is like the systems, what you are building, how resilient they are, how much they can support the real world, and there have been the bad actors throughout. In my last 20 years of in my last 20 years of experience, there has been bad actors. First, it used to be like on a smaller scale, but as the technology enhanced, the bad actors enhanced as well. So the more the technology enhances, we have to like be more more protective about what you're doing, because ultimately it is the trust. And that is what inspires me, because it's not like, the hype that, okay, everybody's building this and we have to time to market and everything has to be considered. But the most important point is like how safe it is. It doesn't matter that, the time to market is 2 weeks or 2 months. What actually, the success of the product actually matters, like how successful, how secure, and how resilient the application was finally when it was developed to the outer world to use it.
So from application developer to vice president of software engineering. So what were the biggest lessons about trust and resilience in systems along that journey?
The biggest shift is like, you have to start from designing, like as being the tech lead or the vice president of engineering. Whenever there's a new application or new proposal comes up, the first thing is like you have to start from designing, like how maintainable it will be, how much it is secured, and what technologies we use, so and how it is going to help the users, and how secure is the main question, because it's there, like once the transition was into cloud, the how secure part became more and more evident. So as like tech lead or vice president, the more important thing into cybersecurity is we have to build like the most secure applications. Every single time you have to protect the data, protect the users, protect everything. So that's the main part.
And working with like hands-on with Java, Spring Boot, and microservices, you've seen both, technical complexity and human factors as well. So what does secure by design mean to you at the code and architectural levels?
Secure by design means to me is like, you start securing from the beginning, like secure it by the design. It not like, as for me, secure by design is not you try to take defensive actions. You try to take preventive, like you prevent. Secure by design is more preventive, where you're trying to prevent the bigger lapse in the system, or bigger lapse which you're trying to prevent your design from all the hackers or the bad actors. So that is secure by design. You build or you design a system in such a way that from the beginning, from the inception, you try to build a product which is actually safe. And there are obviously the defensive methods also, like once the attack happens, or what is the resiliency is basically like how resilient your system is in, if at all there is a attack which actually happens, how much your system can take it. Like, are there any alternate machines, alternate servers, or alternate applications which can actually take up the users during that time? So that is like having a plan for the resiliency is also like the secure by design.
And a lot of people, I don't know, especially when you're talking about maybe more smaller organizations and startups, they say it's too much effort to be doing this right now, spend so much time on the design phase. So can you tell me about your experience in terms, does this really pay out? So the time you spend on the design really pays out in the
Yeah.
full, software? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, that's a great question. Like it is like, when I started with my career, we didn't have agile, or it was SDLC. So, the software development life cycle, it was a waterfall method. Like, it was first requirements gathering, then designing, then coding, then testing, everything at once. So the difference between agile and, the waterfall is like agile, we have everything coming together. So during that time, back in the time, we used to say that 60% of your time should be until you start designing, until you start coding. Because only when you have the requirements and the designing in place, 60%, then your 40% of the task is actually coding and testing. So back in 2008, where I worked, we had we had those CMM level certifications for the organizations. So they gave a lot of stress upon how much time you spend in designing. If the requirement and the designing part is perfect, then you don't have to spend, if there is no re-engineering. Like you spend less into re-engineering. So it's very necessary that you wait, you pause for a minute and you think over it and then take the big leap rather than just take the leap and then think, oh, what did I do?
That was a great insight, especially with the percentage and all that kind of stuff. Thanks for that. So you also developed automation efforts using Maven, Jenkins, and Bitbucket, right? So how did automation and CI/CD pipelines change the security posture of the teams and applications you managed?
Yeah, the automation in the CI/CD pipelines really not in terms of security, I would say, yeah, it is, but the major impact, what I would think as from the development perspective, is the time and effort. The time and effort, what the time to market time has actually reduced because of the automation. And definitely, like the security is also there because there is a lot of controls which you can put because you cannot really check in into the master branch, or you cannot directly check in into the develop branch, because all these branches are actually the ones which are the critical branches. So we have to the team has to rebranch from those. And the CI/CD pipeline, the way it works is like once you check in your code, it starts building immediately. Then even the vulnerabilities are they are integrated into your pipeline, and that's how it integrates the security part of it. Like if there is any command line injection, or there is any vulnerability as part traverses, so everything the companies have integrated in such a way that it doesn't allow you to move ahead with your deployment or code unless and until you fix those vulnerabilities. So the CI/CD pipeline has really helped in both, like the time to market and also the vulnerabilities and securing your code. Also regarding the coverage, like before, I remember like the test cases or unit test cases, it was manual, but all the automation part has actually, we can set up that, the coverage of the code has to be 80% or 90%. It won't allow you to move ahead if you don't have all the unit test cases for that part of the code. So
Thank you.
that has really helped.
Thank you. When you working on backend systems for global clients like UPS and Citigroup, what kind of cybersecurity or reliability challenges did you face day to day?
Uh, I would be very honest here, day to day, we don't face like much because the bigger clients has already from the day one, they are actually securing, and the application, the bank or the UPS, for example, it's on securing. From my perspective as the tech lead, the day to day I can is uh, earlier, not now. Now they have systems like the credentials, losing of credentials. The developers are trying to not having proper segregation of access. That was the earlier challenge, like I would say, which is now very much resolved. The segregation of duties have to be there. If that is not there, denial by default, uh, even the code repository, for example, the access has to be denied by default. Only when you have an explicit access, then in day-to-day activities, that was one thing which I think over the period of time has improved a lot. So I would not say as a challenge, but that was a challenge few years back, segregation of duties and access management, which has now got automated, and it has improved a lot. But that is one challenge. If we don't handle that properly, then it does have a bigger problem, because at least a person with lesser privilege will have the authority to go and check in the code into UAT or production, that is one challenge. Yeah.
Looking back now, how did your experience with query optimization and performance tuning connect with the need for secure efficiency, like making systems faster and safe?
Yeah, that is a very, I mean, that has been the, the crux or the heart of the development. So, like we have several tools which are integrated, like, the App Dynamics or the Dynatrace, which will actually alert the systems if there is a long running query. So the query optimization is a very critical part, and I don't think so any query which is taking a longer than, like, say, the desired time or whatever is the SLA of the application has to be reworked. There are DBAs to do the performance tuning of the queries. If the query is taking more time, then we have to put it into a stored procedure. But the question remains the same, that those shouldn't be. Then the other way to solve is, like, we have also have to take care of the, tuning of the database, like the clustered and the non-clustered indexes. If at all, we are not able to resolve the query itself, then we do have to change the indexing of the columns and also the purging. Like, you cannot have one table have data for 10 years and then it keeps on. So there has to be a purging, maintenance of the data along with the table, which will actually a part of the optimization. It's not just the query optimization, but it includes everything. Yeah, I would say the database tuning.
That's interesting. Thank you. And before Amidol, which we're going to cover soon, it's your research. We're going to talk about that later. But before that, what triggered your curiosity about connecting system logic with explainability and semantics?
Uh, this explainable AI is one thing which always, interested me. I have also given, like, a session for the DSS Salon at Miami, and I have an upcoming session on the same thing. So, it's a very interesting topic because from the way we have moved so fast into AI, that everybody is talking about the benefits of AI, but nobody is looking at the, the downside of AI. It is very much like the other industries, but the critical industries like healthcare or the financial, where everything is regulated. In the regulated industries, the AI is not that fast because ultimately it has to be answerable. Like, you cannot have a, like, regulators, they have a strict on the banks. We cannot have them asking us, like, why this decision was made. A simple is, if you lose it, if a credit card is blocked and then, or for example, it is denied. And if the user comes and asks, like, why it was denied, and we don't have an answer because the explainable. So that's where the explainable AI comes into, and it's like many researchers, like, we are actually looking into that part. I'm sure the companies are also looking into that part. Right now, like, I think this as simplest as ChatGPT also has the thinking part, and it will actually DeepSeek will give you the explanation, like, why it gave that. Yeah. So that's a very important, like, even for the healthcare.
Right. No, I agree. So let's shift a little bit now. We talk a lot about the past. So let's move from, enterprise systems to explainable AI. You are now VP of software engineer at JPMorgan Chase, leading teams that, build mission critical systems in an environment where reliability and security are everything, right? So what principles guide your approach to engineering leadership?
Um, the principles what guide into my engineering leadership is, first is, like, pause and think. I mean, I don't really support, or I do, even for myself, the way it works is like, I have to, we all have to take a step back, which is very necessary, and think over it, because that one moment, 1 minute spent in thinking is actually going to save you 10 minutes. That's how my math works, but you just have to take a pause. Like, during the day too, like, we have to take several pauses to we have to take a step back and think over it, that why are we doing this? Maybe put a second thought, maybe put a third thought. it might be possible that your first thought is correct, but the more thoughts you put into it is ultimately going to help you in the long run. So for me, it's like, the pace matters. Like instead of everything or doing fast, doing it correctly and reliably is more important.
It's like having like a small pit stops moments, right?
Yeah, that's what, and the other thing which really matters is like technology. Like you have to, it's changing. Like it's not the way what it used to be 10 years back. Like you have to be on your toes, and we all have to evolve and adjust as per the AI. So if there are AI tools, then we are developers. We can take help from them. Ultimately, it's you are the developer. You can't like deny things. So we have to evolve. That's what I think. Like in all these years, in every technology, in cloud or something, we just keep on evolving, and that's how we learn as an individual.
And how do you ensure that cybersecurity considerations aren't just afterthoughts, but embedded early in software development lifecycle?
Lucky enough, like we have the design discussions. Every company what I worked for, and is having the design discussions, and also they have like the all the organization they have the approved list of tools or the softwares what we can use. So that is from the infrastructure point of view, where the company everyone ensures that the product what we are developing is developed in a safe environment. And the other thing is like, you have all the scanning done on the code, which will tell you if there are any vulnerabilities. And you remember, I mean, I just remembered one incident way back in 2021, I guess, where we all were working overtime on the 31st of December, where there was one vulnerability which leaked in through the code, through a library. And then every organization had to replace that library. So yeah. So we all were working on that weekend. So I do remember that. So still there are misses, but I think every organizations have now automated their CI/CD pipeline, which will ensure that such vulnerabilities do not get seeped in. Then there has to be segregation of duties. Uh, the access control has to be there on the organization's data, on the processes. Not everybody can see everything. That's what I feel, that is the, like, we have to consider all those things, and they are considered while building any product for any organization.
So now you were also a mentor with the National Science Technology Medals Foundation supporting innovation, right? So how does mentorship help shape the next generation of cybersecurity and AI leaders?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Like, I really enjoy doing that. I am also a mentor for STEM for her. So I'm also a mentor for that. So I must tell you, like, these kids, they are so much more they have so much of greed for learning than what we had like 20 years back. I can see, like, when I compare to the generation what I came from. And second thing, the difference is like they have the access to a lot more things than what we had access to, good and bad both. But the ones what I mentored definitely use the good one. They are studying to Harvard and many other good universities. So they do have like questions like, uh, about cybersecurity, that how can they pursue their career in cybersecurity. So I just try to understand whether they like the technology more or they like the domain more. Because for me, my journey has been like, I like the technology more, and that's how I came into cybersecurity. For me, I stuck with technology, and technology is always my strong points. So from there, I got into cybersecurity. So it was not the other way around. So that's what I tell them, that you have to first figure out if you like the technology. Then in that case, you might move and, make shifts, but you stick to the technology. The other career is you take cybersecurity, or like I have worked for screening. I worked for GRC in a bank, like Global Risk. I worked on the trade side, but I stuck to the technology. So that's the difference. I try to figure out that first, like what is their interest, like whether it's technology or it's the business side.
So let's transition now to your research. Fortifying financial transaction security using artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. So for those who haven't read yet, so what is that about?
Yeah, so that is like I had done that research with my like my not a colleague, but we were from the same company. So she now works for Webster Bank. So we collaborated on this paper to research on how we can, uh, enhance the financial security with AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So it talks about the blockchain methods, and it talks about how it can secure various methods. If if you read through the analysis, then it also shows the result, like how it actually helped in fortifying the transactions, like how the financial security can be strengthened with artificial intelligence.
So your paper seems to argue is that AI and blockchain together can uh, fundamentally reorganize trust in financial systems. So what are specific security gaps in today's financial infrastructure motivated?
Uh, what motivated what motivated me and my the co-author on this paper was, uh, right now, like everyone is moving towards the payment via, away from the cash and the normal money, or whatever, the dollar or whatever the transactions, they are moving towards the crypto. So that is where the blockchain comes into picture, like because crypto is using a lot of blockchain for their validations. So that's where, but it is not into, because they came before, before the AIML hype took over. So what motivated us is, like, this, how it would impact the financial industry if this was integrated together, like the blockchain and the artificial intelligence and the machine learning. So the motivation is basically like, sometime maybe it might or might not happen in future, that people will move away from the traditional exchange of money and it will be more into crypto. Right now, I guess crypto is mostly not much, but ultimately the shift is going to happen, and blockchain is the one which is actually validating the transactions for crypto.
Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. Anomaly detection is a major theme in your study, right? So how can AI-driven anomaly detection on blockchain networks actually prevent fraud or money laundering in real-time transactions?
Um, the AI is very we all know AI is artificial. Like, the way we train it, it's going to get trained if it is a very good model. So it's not like for the humans, it's not possible to detect any anomaly. Say it is like, some other, the location has changed, or you see some invalid hits coming at 3 a.m. in the night. So all those can be detected by AI. The anomaly can be detected by AI, and everything which is unusual. So that can also happen to false positives, like, false negatives, not false positives. That can also lead to false negative, but it is, again, it depends on how you tune the system. Like, if you tune it to be very strict, then you are going to have a lot many false negatives, but you're never going
Right.
to miss any negative. But if you try to tune it on a data which is not that where we are okay with that, then in that case, we're not going to have much false negatives. But in that way, the positives are also going to get slipped. So it's all about how, uh, we are going to train the model and how it is. The data in training the AI is also very important. Because I know when I was, sorry, go ahead. When I was like, just a thought, like when I was doing a study on this, like research on this explainable AI or part of my research, uh, the health industry, for example, will, if you train, like there was an instance where if you try to, it started giving false results for the patients, or false negatives or false positive, like it started giving incorrect results. And then later on, it was observed that the hospital was training the data initially on the older gen. So the AI has learned now to be the older generation. So that's why it started giving incorrect results for the younger generation, because it learned it from the older generation. So that is very much critical. I know I'm like going another way, but that's really interesting. The other is like, if you bypass, like in AI, if you bypass a system, or if you have AI learn like, suppose you're trying to approve a credit card for a person whom you should not approve, but you have like 10 of approvals and you go ahead and approve it. But the problem is now AI has learned that it is going to approve all those. So you have to be very careful. So it is not one of a case. If there are now 10 cases under the similar criteria, AI is going to approve it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you describe the smart contract optimization as a key security layer, right? So what kinds of vulnerabilities do you find most critical, and how can AI and machine learning help detect and patch before attackers do?
The most critical, if there is any, what AI can do, as per me, uh, the firewalls, that is what AI can, detect if there are any breaches in firewall. Because now firewall has become totally a different programming. It's not like, simple. We have the subnets, we have the virtual, virtual, virtual cloud, VPCs, and then we actually program it like what can come inside, what kind of request can come inside. But it is so much of configuration and efforts needed that firewall is like, if you miss something, or the easiest way for attackers is through URLs and through IP address. So if I think the AI can be like really helpful as per me in that area, where it can detect any loops and holes before the attacker can reach the firewalls. So I think like AI can really help in firewalls, because firewall, yeah, one of the challenge which I didn't mention is firewalls. Like we have to set up firewalls every single time, even within the application. Like certain set of users should not be able to see certain set of as per the geographic location or something. The firewalls has to be set up.
No, I agree. And I see more and more research paper showing up like different ways to use some frameworks to automate pen testings on different areas, like network pen testing or even application pen test, that kind of stuff that really automates the process for detection and even patching, right?
Yeah, and even like, because if there are even as a prevention, or as a defense mechanism, if there is like shield attack where there is like, and where they try to attack the system, like there are thousands of requests coming in. So AI can detect it based on the network traffic before it even reaches. So I feel like AI can really help there.
Yeah, and I agree. Now, regulatory compliance and data privacy are big hurdles for banks adopting AI, right, and blockchain. So, from your perspective, how can institutions balance transparency with the need to protect sensitive financial data?
Yeah. In my perspective, like, so protecting the data anytime holds a more value or more, preference than the transparency. Yeah, definitely transparency. There has to be a trade-off, But especially for the finance thing, the trade-off is not that great. You have, or even in healthcare, the data protection holds a higher precedence over the transparency. So the biggest challenge comes there, like how much, because you do need even healthcare or finance or any critical data handling organization needs to have the transparency, but not to all, like, so that's where the segregation of duties and the identity and access management, which is a very critical part of any organization, comes into picture. So if you really integrate the identity and access management with the data privacy and data handling, that is the one which really solves the real world problems, because that's where you give access and how much access. And every, as per the AWS, if anybody has implemented, then there are policies where you can control it via policies. It becomes all programmatically. So you don't really have to go and look at, I mean, have that kind of monitoring, but everything can be controlled by a policy. So that is one challenge, but having proper identity and access management can solve that issue aspect.
Okay. Now, looking ahead, you mentioned quantum computing as a future threat, right? So how urgent is that risk, and what steps should financial organizations take now to make the AI blockchain systems quantum resistant?
There are really, like, quantum is like it's high, like high speed or high, it's like a lot of intelligence in quantum computing. So the attackers are also, so, ultimately every organization has to up their security levels. Think that everything, whatever is, as soon as along the technology advances, there has to be a parallel cybersecurity shield going around uh, along with the technology. I really don't know at this point of time what they can do or how it can be, uh, I don't have a clear answer for that, but I have always been on the mindset that as be everyone has to shield their organization along with the technology, because you open those many ways for the attackers to come in as you advance in technology.
Yeah, and to me, this quantum computing threat, for my opinion, is normally, it is to me higher during the beginning, the transition, when the first quantum computer starting to get, to be in the hands of a malicious person with an attack, right? Right. Why it's not even spread out yet. So that's where I think it's more, complicated.
Yeah.
Because if everybody has quantum computing, so I think they can work together to defend whatever. But when the game is not fair, like some people have, the majority doesn't have, that's kind of a tricky, right?
There should also be, like, I feel that everyone should, like, the individuals who are interested, or everyone should up their game, because once you learn and once you have those trainings and understand what it is, it becomes easier to defend. Because that's what the attackers are doing. They're studying every single day too. So we have to be, like, everyone has to be as, fast as them in learning.
All right. So now we're going to move a little bit more for the future to get your brain, how do you think about it's going to happen in the future? Okay. So there's no right or wrong, because, it's the future. We don't know yet, right? But in your view, what breakthroughs, like whether technical or policy driven, are most needed to make large scale AI blockchain systems, viable for the global financial sector?
In my view, it is explainable AI, because until and unless we have a reason of why it happened, or why that particular decision was taken, AI cannot go full scale. We have industries like where the data is sensitive, like healthcare, finance, or insurance. So we need explainable AI.
And you also mentioned a lot about emphasizing the privacy paradox. Like AI needs massive data to learn, but finance demands confidentiality. So what emerging privacy preserving techniques like federated learning or zero knowledge proofs do you think hold the most promise for protecting customers' data while still improving fraud detection?
Yeah, that's like a challenge, what I guess the finance industries or everyone is facing right now, because the training, the data training, even the healthcare and all that. There has to be balance, but I was trying to look into federated ones, so I would go with that. Like, um, I haven't, like, I was just trying to see that, what it is, but I think that is going to be a challenge. It's still a challenge.
You also highlight the importance of explainability, and you mentioned that multiple times, and regulatory trust. So, how can banks and fintechs make AI-driven security systems transparent enough for auditors and regulators without exposing sensitive algorithms or trade secrets?
Yeah, the same, like right now they have the developers, like the developers have coded it, right? So if at all there is any issue or anybody, there's a human over there who's actually looking into the code and, looking at that and trying to explain what really happened. Why was a particular trade rejected or what happened. So the similar way, like at the similar level, the AI should be able to tell it that why it happened. Because this field, because as a developer, I know that if someone asks me why it happened, I look in the code and I know it is because this was missing, or it is because, it is because there's a bug in the code. So similar way, the AI should be able to tell the regulator why it happened. Is it because of bug in the system, or it is because of a missing thing on the customer side?
Ethical AI and governance are, becoming defining issues for the financial industry. What does responsible AI looks like in financial cybersecurity, and how can organizations ensure fairness, accountability, and unbiased decision making in automated fraud detection?
Uh, the most, the most important thing which we all should remember for AI is that it is constantly learning. It is learning about you, it is learning about the systems, not only in finance or wherever, like everywhere, AI is constantly learning. So we have to, like, regarding fairness or transparency, it all, the model selection will also help into the transparency and into fairness. But as it is learning, it also depends on what data it is learning on. But keeping a balance about everything, like not just speed, but about like the security plus resiliency. I think it will reach there where there will be an explanation, there will be transparency, there will be data protection, and I think everyone is moving towards that. But still, they're not there. I don't think so. Every finance industry is there.
Thank you. And we are almost close to the end. We're going to be rapid fire by the end. But before that, is there anything else you'd like to share, to discuss, or highlight
Yeah.
to the community, or even future or the next talk?
No, I would also submit an abstract of for women in cybersecurity, where I'm trying to research, work on a paper where the threats into accessibility for users with accessibility issues. I was trying to work on the abstract this week. The cybersecurity and accessibility for users with accessibility issues, because I guess that is also another area where no one has actually, I mean, that is like kind of a forgotten group, or maybe something which people are not paying attention, that we are going to have a lot of data privacy issues, data security issues with users with the accessibility issue users, where we have to actually, like my research is like how it is a threat, like cybersecurity issue.
Perfect. Nice. No, thanks for that. So now we are coming to the close to the end right now. So we're going to ask you quick questions and you just answer very shortly, okay? Favorite hacking movie?
Oh, that answer. It is a Bollywood movie. I forgot the name. I don't watch much movies. Sorry.
Most underrated security tool?
Um, the normal scanning, like the vulnerability scanning, the malware scanning, like the basic scanning, we just overlook, but they are I feel they are underrated.
Dream keynote speaker you would love to hear?
Uh, there are several, but in cybersecurity or just in general, the CEO of Google, like I want to hear him. Yeah.
One word to describe the cybersecurity community?
That we are the first line of defense.
Coffee, tea, or
Yes.
energy drink?
Uh,
Tea.
yeah.
Great. Mrunal, thank you so much for sharing your time, stories, and insights. And thank you, for everyone that is listening. Stay curious, stay secure, and we'll see you next week with LufSec again. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.